Well, so the business itself, it started by my brother and I, Andy, and so this true story behind it is, and I'll spill the beans if you will, is that so he was out in Denver at the time. I just moved to Raleigh. We're both working jobs that we knew weren't long term, and so we were kicking around with it. We wanted to start something together, essentially. At least that's what the thought was, and we just had no clue what that idea was. And so and I'll give him credit for this. For 30 straight days, this is back in 2011 or 12. For 30 straight days, we had to email each other a business idea, which means it basically forces your mind to think of something. You come up with some of the worst ideas you can imagine because you have a deadline every day.
Yeah.
But what it does, it's a great experiment, if you will. It forces your mind to be constantly looking at every little thing throughout the day to think, because you're thinking, man, I got to email my brother a business idea by 8 o'clock tonight. I better think of something because you're coming up with 30 different business ideas in 30 days. It's hard, and so. But your eyes are now, you drive to work, but you're all of a sudden thinking, man, who owns that billboard? You sit in a chair at work, you're like, who makes this chair? Because you're constantly thinking like, well, what am I using or seeing or touching or feeling every day that maybe we can do better? And so, ironically enough, I mean, you can kind of see where this is going, but somewhere in that 30 days,
someone got a haircut.
I got a haircut. I walked out of that particular shop, and that was my idea on that particular day. Pitched it to him, and to his credit, he did not have the military background, so he was much more advanced with the business side than I ever was. And so he was able to take the idea and kind of run with it.
That's incredible.
Because he was living in Denver, spent some time out in Portland during an internship, and just the West Coast in some of those cities, they're a little more cutting edge, if you will.
Okay.
No pun intended. But so when I pitched the barbershop idea, he was able to kind of take it and run with it and kind of vet it a little more than I could have, because I was still out of the military. I had done nothing but get like your typical military cut every week, so I wasn't as well versed in the civilian haircut scene as others.
Well, I love that whole exercise, and in our conversation earlier today, talking with Nathan from Story Driven, he hit on how your brain is a problem-solving tool, and if you give it a problem to solve, it wants to solve, it wants to answer the question, and such a cool parallel to giving your brain this problem to solve every day. A cool exercise for people coming into entrepreneurship.
And looking back, I mean, it was necessary, because if you sit down, you think. I run into so many folks, and I admire their determination, but it's just I want to start something, and that's their comment, and I was no different than them at one point. But if the idea of just I'm going to come up with as if it's just going to fall from the sky, it's not.
Yeah,
it's irrational. And so what it does, it just forced you to actually. Because I think everyone's sitting there thinking, well, I'm going to develop the next app, or I'm going to do something. And to us, I think Andy and I will be the first. We're not the smartest guys, and we realize everyone else is trying to do the next sharpest, smartest thing. You're trying to create the next Instagram, the next Facebook, or when reality is, and that's great. I mean, certainly, I think all of us in this room could wish we had started all these tech companies and whatnot. But sometimes, entrepreneurship is a wide range of things, sometimes the answer can literally be right in front of you. And so, when I walked out of that barbershop 6-some years ago, at no point did I think, I wasn't even sure, is this a good business or not, but at least it forced that, if it weren't for that exercise, I would have just walked out of that barbershop and thought nothing of it. And thought, well, I just had another haircut. Instead, I walked out of that and said, I think we can do that better.
Yeah, that's what a cool way to discover the concept. And was that what it was when you walked out, hey, that was not a great experience?
Essentially, I mean, there's other aspects that went into it, but yeah, it was the fact that I'm just, at the time I was 27, I was, like I said, out of the military, so all of a sudden I'm now able to get a normal haircut, a normal average American haircut, if you will, and they didn't have to follow any type of regulation. And so now I'm able to kind of have a little more versatility in my hair, if you will, and so so all of a sudden, and I keep in mind I'd also been overseas for so long, so I was reintegrating back into the American haircut scene. And so I was making it sound more dramatic than it really was, but so I'm Googling these national chains or high-end salons. I'm just trying to figure out, where does a guy like me even go? Discovery, and I just wanted a normal basic haircut. I'm not, nothing No.
I'm a simple guy here.
Like, a simple guy, yeah. And so I started going to the national chains and just realizing the real kind of moment was when so I was new to the triangle, and I immediately kind of fell in love with the triangle. So I thought, I got here in 2010, and this is when the triangle was really hitting its stride, if you will.
100%.
And so all of a sudden at 27, 28 years old, I'm going to really good concerts at Red Hat and whatnot. And there's breweries popping up left and right. The restaurant scene's good. All this stuff, everything I was kind of getting myself into and friends were doing with me and whatnot, I'd consider quote unquote cool.
Oh yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I'm off in some shopping center getting a terrible haircut at a terrible national chain with terrible customer service. And you're just thinking to myself, wait a second.
This doesn't.
Everything else Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill is offering right now is pretty cool and it's going in the right direction. It's got this great momentum, and yet for my haircut, I veer off and go out to this this generic chain, if you will. And so that's kind of the moment where I was like, wait a second, why can't the haircut experience for the Triangle citizen match the food, beverage, music, sports experience they're getting?